clarinet professor at the University of Memphis. This video is going to give you a few tips on your all-West audition music, and I'm looking specifically at the slow etude for 11th and 12th grade. As you may know, this comes from the Rose 32 studies, and it's number 23 in that book. So if you happen to have that original version, you will notice that the first two lines that I just played are marked andante con moto. And this is important to know because they're different from the music that starts at measure 9 that's marked adagio. So the tempo is different and it has a different feel. I think of those first two lines as just an introduction to the music that comes in measure 9. And it's also important to notice the fermatas in those first two lines. Fermatas are resting places in the music, and a lot of times when we approach a fermata, it's appropriate to slow down. So you may have heard me slowing down a little bit as I approached each fermata, and then also as I left the fermata, there's a little bit of freedom there too. So you can experiment with that and see what feels right to you. Then the heart of the etude starts in measure 9, marked adagio. And this is difficult for different reasons. One is that it's a lot of slow, sustained playing. It crosses up into the high register, and then it also has some big leaps in it. So you really need to have great control of your tone for this etude. And one of the best ways to work on that is simply by doing long tones. So you can do all different types of long tones, but you want to be thinking about embouchure, intonation, what kind of tone you want to have, and that'll make this one a lot easier to play. It's also difficult because it's pretty slow, it's marked adagio, but there's a lot of different rhythms and fast rhythms at this slow tempo. So I suggest that you do a lot of studying of this etude without playing, so you understand the rhythms. You can write counting in your part and really sit down and figure out and understand the rhythms. Sometimes people will listen to recordings to learn rhythms, and that doesn't work as well because it's usually noticeable to the judges or anyone who's listening if you actually understand the rhythms or if you're just copying the rhythms. So you can find recordings of this online. I actually have one on my website, robynjonesclarinet.com. So you can listen to the whole thing there, but I recommend that you just do it to get like the big picture of the piece and then really figure out the rhythms on your own with your teacher, with the help of your band director. So when you start practicing this, I would suggest that you try to have an 1/8 note pulse instead of a 1/4 note pulse. It makes it easier to know how everything fits together. And then once you get more comfortable with it, you might be able to switch to a 1/4 note pulse. But if we did an 1/8 note pulse, it might be something like this. This is 88 for the 1/8 note. So if I look at measure, we'll just at measure 9. So hopefully you saw that every note was held for a precise amount of time. It changed exactly with the clicks. Everything fit with the metronome. So dotted 1/4 notes get 3/8 notes. You have these 16th note triplets that fit into 1/8 note pulse. And so you have to go through and make sure you're really understanding that. Another place we could try would be number 22, measure 22. So again, you can hear how everything fits with the metronome. So it'll take a little bit of homework on your own part before you start playing to figure all this out, but it will pay off in the end. The second tip I have for you is to write in all your breath marks. With something like this, you have to go long phrases, and so you don't want to be caught off guard with nowhere to breathe, and you also don't want to just breathe right when you need it. You need to plan ahead. And you might have to breathe a little before you need it because it makes more sense musically. So you can look for clues in the music as to where you should breathe. And an example of that would be measure 12. So if you look at that, the first two notes are slurred together, and then the last 3 notes are slurred together. Also, the first 2 notes have a diminuendo, and the last 3 notes have a crescendo. So to me, that means that those last 3 eighth notes are pickups to the next bar, so it's okay to breathe right before them. So that's a good place to breathe. And you may have noticed in 13, those grace notes, I'm placing them right before the beat, and it's not disrupting the tempo or the rhythm of the notes around it. So I'll play that for you again, the pickups to measure 13. So just put them right before the beat, and they sound easy, they sound light, and they're just embellishments of the melody that we're playing. An example of a place not to breathe is usually bar lines in something like this. Every now and then it makes sense, but for the most part we want to avoid breathing on bar lines. So an example of where not to breathe would be measure 23 to 24. So we don't want to breathe there because those last 2 notes are the end of that phrase, so we don't want to break that up. They belong with the previous measure. So those are some tips to get you started. Make sure you understand the rhythm, practice it with a metronome set to eighth notes, write in your breath marks, practice your long tones, and this will be great. It'll be a great learning experience for you, and I hope you have a great audition.